Well, it is the day after the NHL trade deadline and a day after the Nashville Predators win. Overall, not a bad day. We're going to break down both, including more history made for the Nashville Predators, our one word to describe the win over Anaheim, and is there anything Matt Duchene can't do? Plus, look ahead to tonight's showdown with the LA Kings, all coming up today on a loaded Locked On Predators podcast.
Your Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. I'm Nick Morgan. I'm a writer and editor at ontheforecheck.com, and I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Ann Kimmel. I'm a writer at ontheforecheck.com.
Now, Ann, you're a mother.
I am.
And a devoted wife of several years.
Yes.
Have you ever come across an instance where you have told your kids or your husband to do something? They totally forget, but they say, oh yeah, it's done. And then you find out it was indeed never done. And not only are you angry about them not getting it done, but now that's more headaches for you.
Yeah, that's pretty much been off and on the last 20 years of my life.
Do you think that's how Evgeny Dadonov feels right now?
I mean, oh my goodness. This is so bad.
Is
so bad.
Is Evgeny Dadonov the mom nobody listens to? And it's like, I told you to put that no trade list in the contract hours ago. And what have you done? You have been sitting there, Pierre Dorian, playing video games for the last 3 years. This is unacceptable.
Oh. Yes, this is unacceptable on so many levels. The fact that there is just now this hot mess in the NHL simply because somebody didn't staple two papers together is just horrifying and secretly fascinating to watch.
It is fascinating to watch because there is a lot of implications that can come out of this. Now, all of a sudden, Vegas, past the deadline, might not have the cap space they need to bring somebody like Mark Stone off IR, Max Pacioretty. And yeah, the Anaheim Ducks now don't have somebody that they apparently traded for, which is somehow only the second most embarrassing thing the Ducks have been involved with in the past 24 hours, thanks to Matt Duchene. Highlight reel goal I think we're going to be seeing over and over again. Yeah, one of the many highlights from last night's 6-3 Predators win over the Anaheim Ducks. It was a complete game from start to finish. The Preds, slow start, but after a 4-goal third period, had it in the bag. And your one word to describe last night's big win for the Predators over the Ducks.
So my one word is very simple and it's actually very March themed. And my one word is Guinness, as in Guinness Book of World Records, and raise yourself a pint of Guinness and salute Filip Forsberg. This game was record-setting for a number of reasons. It's actually getting confusing keeping up with all of the records that are being pursued and broken with this team, which is super exciting. But just a salute to Filip Forsberg, and I want to say to Matt Duchene, because the two of them have been neck and neck chasing this franchise single season goal scoring record. And I think they have made each other better. So world record, maybe not world record, but franchise record, and a salute to Filip Forsberg. I give you a Guinness.
Yeah, and we've been talking so long about how a Predator has never gotten past 34 goals.
Yes.
We now might have two hit the 40 mark this year. In fact, judging by their current pace, they're both going to top 40. by the end of the year.
Yes.
Matt Duchene and Filip Forsberg. That's something teams very rarely can achieve, having 2 40-goal scorers in a season. It's only been done a handful of times since the 2005 lockout. So the Predators would be in some pretty solid company there. And let's also, as we're talking about records, and not miss out on Roman Josi now with 102-point pace this season.
That's crazy.
The pace is picking up every single game, which is wild.
Yes, you would think at some point it's got to taper off, but he just continues to get better and better. He has, 24 points in 10 games. I mean, this is insane what he is able to do and what he's able to sustain. Just phenomenal play from Roman Josi.
Yeah, well, it's crazy. Statistically, yesterday was Roman Josi's worst statistical game in 6 games, and he had a goal and an assist. Like, how insane is that when your worst game in 2 weeks is a 2-point performance? I mean, that's unbelievable.
He's taken some time. He's taken it off. He just checked out. He only had a goal and an assist. Come on, Roman.
Maybe a benching will clear his mind up. maybe he'll come back stronger and get back on that 3-point-a-game pace. My one word, and kind of ties in a lot of what we've been talking about. It's pizzazz. Last night's game.
You know I love this.
Yeah. Okay. It is. You got to have the hand gestures too with it.
Yes.
You got to have pizzazz, and to me, that's what last night's game felt like, because there is so much going on. I mean, we had a wild fight to start the game. Tanner Jeannot and Connor Carrick, one of the better hockey fights we've seen across the NHL this year. We had, of course, some records broken. Filip Forsberg tying the single season record. Matt Duchene also tying the single season record, and then Filip Forsberg breaking the single season record.
There it is. Yeah.
We had Josi continuing his pace. Juuse Saros. Other than that little 45-second stretch where David Rittich came in, played another really, really solid game. The Predators' power play was on fire. 3 power play goals on 5 chances. One of the sharpest they looked. This just looked like a fancy, style points game. You know, it's like, when you're in the college football playoff and you're just kind of waiting for that one team to just run up the score on somebody so you can say, oh, well, they got some style points. They're going to move up in a lot of people's mind. That kind of felt like the statement the Nashville Predators made last night. It's, hey, we can not only eke out 3-2 wins or steal wins in games we don't think we can beat in. No, we can actually also just beat up on teams, which is what they did at Anaheim last night. Just dominate teams.
Yes. And, I think this game was a really encouraging win for a strange reason. I think the team came in and it took them some time to sort of get their skates under them and to find their groove. In the first period, Juuse Saros really kept the Predators in the game because Anaheim was pressuring quite a bit. Second period, they were able to make their adjustments. Third period, they came into their game and just dominated. And I think previously in the season, when the Predators have struggled, it's taken them a couple of games to get back on their feet. And then we got into a stretch recently where they would have one hiccup game, but then be able to correct it. And this was a game where you could see them making in-game corrections, right as things are going on and take over a game. And that's something I'm not sure we've seen from them in the past couple seasons. And it's exactly where you want to be heading into the playoffs. You want to be able to make those quick adjustments. You don't want to have to take 2 days to reset mentally or with execution. And so it was really encouraging to see them come out that third period and just absolutely dominate this game.
Yeah, because it was kind of a rough start, as we mentioned. It was like the Anaheim fans didn't seem like the Predators showed up early in the game. Shots fired on that one. I'm sure we'll hear.
Shots fired. Oh dear. Oh dear.
Not the worst exchange that's been traded between a Predators person and a Ducks person.
Fair.
But I'm with you. They bounced back early in this game. I think anytime You have a quick turnaround to start a Western Conference road trip. As a reminder, the Predators are playing on the West Coast Monday after playing in Nashville Saturday. That's not an easy turnaround to do. So, you can easily make the argument that the Preds may be a little bit sluggish from that coming out of the gate. But yeah, once they got their legs onto them, like the longer the game went on and the more the Predators kind of woke up, that's when you saw them flip the switch. And that's the kind of switch that they need to have flipped on throughout the remainder of this road trip. Because, of course, LA tonight, you got Vegas coming up later this week. These are two important games for playoff purposes. And so the Predators need to kind of keep their foot on the gas. And it's good to see them be able to kind of rebound and dig themselves out of a start like they had last night.
Yes. And that's something that I don't feel like the team has been able to do as quickly in previous seasons. It's taken them, they haven't gotten to a point where I feel like this team can make in-game corrections that are necessary like they were able to do last night. I thought that was really encouraging. And the way that they finished the game was just so dominant.
There's something, speaking of dominance, we have to talk about Matt Duchene's goal, don't we?
Yes,
Was that not the highlight of the night? Maybe the highlight of the year for the Nashville Predators. To quote Anne, I mean, come on. It is
Matthew Duchene. Yeah, I mean,
we'll have to break that down in just a second. But first, want to mention today's show brought to you by our friends at BetOnline. The college basketball tournament finally upon us. Both men's and women's action has given us some fantastic games so far. To keep track of all the latest odds, contests, and player props, BetOnline is your #1 sports for all of your sports betting needs and info. Plus, BetOnline also has your sports scores, podcasts, and news this season to keep you up to date on all things sports. And of course, it's not just basketball. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering needs, including live betting and your favorite Vegas casino games. Got plenty of great NHL action as well, too. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Yeah, and Matt Duchene's goal, a nice little nifty, kind of a mix between a no-look sort of shot and, of course, the little back between the legs over the right side, the little Merrick Malik play, as I like to call it. Something I think a lot of people try in practices and stuff like that. You don't see it executed in a game as well as Matt Duchene executed it last night.
Oh my gosh. I mean, just take a minute. If you haven't seen that goal, you need to make sure you take a minute today and look at this goal. Absolutely gorgeous goal. And let me tell you, it couldn't happen to a more deserving NHL player right now. Matt Duchene has been through it here in Nashville. He has come in, he came in, and it was just a rough start. And I think he took a ton of heat, most of it not because of anything he was doing. To see him find his game, to see him competing with Forsberg, to see him score a goal like that, it is so fantastic. Been a huge fan of Matt Duchene, believed that he just was not in the right situation yet. I feel like tons of credit goes to John Hynes for setting him up for success. Love seeing it. That goal, he said afterward, it was just one of those goals that you don't really ever think you're going to make it a game. You kind of do it when you're a kid. And there it was. I was so excited for him. Love Matt Duchene.
Yeah, we've seen some interesting goals for the Predators over the past year or so, like Forsberg's Michigan, Roman Josi coast to coast, Forsberg again, also kind of deacon pass 3 or 4 guys. This is a different Predators team for sure, like a different vibe this season. There seems to be more, as I said earlier, pizzazz. But this definitely seems to be a different brand of Predators hockey. And it's funny because, we talk about the identity of the Predators and how the Predators have kind of gone back to, their kind of gritty, not, maybe not an offensive juggernaut, but are always going to shut you down, make it close, be hard to play against. They found a way to embrace that, but also evolve, like also move forward. This seems like, very Showtime Lakers-esque, where it's just like a lot of high scoring, a lot of style points. And it's fun. Like it's definitely fun to watch as a Predators fan.
Finally, I think it's been a little bit rough the last couple seasons because there's been potential but not execution. Finally, the Predators are able to kind of put those things together, and I think we're seeing potential become execution, and we're getting to enjoy this game, and all of the gritty work that they're doing is opening things up for these style points, which I am here for.
Yes. Style points equals more fun for Nick and Ann on a podcast.
That's right.
Jeremy Lauzon makes his debut after a highly scrutinized trade, and not only makes his debut, but winds up in the Predators' top 4 with Mattias Ekholm out due to an illness. He played fine. Played fine. Got a lot of minutes, just over 18 minutes, and just under 2 minutes on the penalty kill. So they definitely used him. I mean, from what we saw, I mean, I'm still not going to change my opinion that I thought that second round pick was a little bit too pricey. David Poile, I think, definitely stopped at McDonald's when there was perfectly good food at home in Milwaukee. But, he played fine. Like if he played like he did last night and he's your 5th or 6th guy occasionally, sure.
I thought he did well considering thrown in to this game, partnered up with Alexander Carrier, which honestly, Carrier, I know this is his first full season. I think he just makes everybody better. I love the performance that he's having this year. So I think that was an opportune position. But to be in the top 4 right away, your first day, that's a big ask. And I agree with you. I don't think that it was bad for an outing. I think he did exactly what they want him to do. I think, he had 4 hits. He did have 2 penalty minutes, but I think, this is somebody who is very, very much what David Poile wants from his defenders. And Poile was clear in his press conference yesterday after the trade deadline. This is not a rental for Nashville. This is somebody that they see investing in and keeping on this team and being a long-term asset for the team. I thought it was a great first outing, all things considered. We'll see going forward where he sort of fits in. So, it could have been a disaster. You hear Mattias Ekholm out, you panic. But I thought, all things considered, he did well. He did fine, as Nick would say.
That's it.
It was fine.
Sure is the word.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, if this is going to be par for the course, and again, I think it was interesting hearing like Poile talk about Lauzon yesterday, because when this trade happened, everybody was kind of like, okay, this is like the new Corbinian Holzer, the new Eric Branson. They're just kind of the depth guys, and then we peace out after a little bit. David Poile seemed very much all in on Lauzon being kind of a more long-term piece for the Predators, which I thought was interesting. And it kind of makes you think, because obviously trading a second-round pick for him is kind of a lot. So it kind of makes you wonder, is there something that either David Poile or John Hynes sees in Jeremy Lauzon that maybe the rest of the hockey people aren't seeing? Like, are they seeing something in his game that they look at and it's like, you know what? I don't care what the advanced stats or any other metrics kind of say on him this season. We think we know how to use him.
And I think the other thing to look at is who might he be coming in to replace Mark Borowiecki's on a 1-year contract. They love Boro, just identity guy, play. everybody loves Mark Borowiecki. I'm wondering if maybe this is bring him in and develop him into that role if Boro decides to retire or they don't re-sign him. So there's, and he's been compared very similar style to Mark Borowiecki. So I think they're looking for something very specific and they must see it in him. And again, I agree with you. I don't think the statistics, reveal a lot about the equity of a second round pick, but they see something in him. And I think it's going to be a long-term investment.
Yeah, Borowiecki, of course, re-signed for next year earlier this year. So, you're kind of hitting on something where I think maybe the Predators see maybe some comparison between those two and maybe, interchanging them a couple of points. Or, even as good as Borowiecki's played this year, this has been his best year in quite some time. So maybe this is just kind of insurance for him or potentially an upgrade down the road. So it's going to be very interesting to kind of see where that goes. Matt Tennyson also last night getting a chance on the blue line. Again, he had played very, very well when he's been in the lineup earlier this year. 2 minutes and 25 seconds of shorthanded time, which was third on Predators defenseman. So, yeah, I mean, it seems like John Hynes is being able to pull all these random pieces that should not theoretically work, and he's getting the most out of them.
I think it's great. And that is a credit, I think, so much of the success of the Nashville Predators right now. Forsberg, Duchene, even Josi, granted, they are extremely talented, but I think John Hynes has really been able to tap in to the identity of this team. I think he has been able to get buy-in from all of these players, and so much of the credit for where they are and their progress should go to John Hynes.
Are you surprised? Because there's a lot of Josi for Norris chatter out there. We know we were on the Jeannot for Calder train earlier this season. We're now on the Josi for Hart bandwagon. Are you surprised there's not more of a push for Hynes to be in the Jack Adams conversation for Coach of the Year?
I'm disappointed. I'm not surprised. He is an obvious candidate, I think, when you really look at what he has been able to do and how he has taken what is very, it's a very similar roster to what they've had the previous couple of seasons with just a few adjustments, been able to take this roster and create something new, create something that is providing opportunities for players like Josi, Duchene, Forsberg, UC Saros. There's so many things that he has been able to develop in this team. The fact that he's not even in the conversation, it baffles me and it frustrates me. I'm not surprised because I feel like the Predators are not they're not all the flash. They're not the pizzazz. And I think those are the teams with that, the team. And now let's see what they do in the postseason. If the Predators go deep into the postseason, I think you're going to see more people having that conversation about Hynes. But right now, I think, look, the stuff we do here in Nashville, I don't think a lot of people are paying attention.
No, except you guys watching. Which we
That's
appreciate.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. More to talk about in just a second, and including a preview of tonight's game because it's another Victor Arvidsson sighting. Speaking of Preds history.
That's right. We've got the LA Kings tonight. We're going to talk about that. But first, want to talk to you about our friends at Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain store to stock all the parts that you need. Why would you endure intimidating, pointless questions and wait while a person behind a counter orders the parts on their computer, choosing the only brand that their warehouse happens to carry? You have computers with access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You can save time and money when you're using Rock Auto. Why would you choose to spend 30, 50, or even 100% more for the same parts from a chain store or car dealership? Rock Auto prices are reliably low for every customer. Rock Auto is a family business. They've been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Go and explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution for your auto parts needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Write Locked On in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com.
Here's one more fun question for you, Anne, about last night's game. Anaheim Ducks, do they have the worst goal horn in the NHL?
I feel like we didn't hear it near as many times, so it's hard for me to remember. Yeah, there's so many things about Anaheim that I struggle with, so I'm willing to criticize their goal horn. I can get on that. I can get around that for sure.
Yeah, I feel like once they lost the mighty, anything redeeming about the franchise, and once Paul Kariya left, it was all downhill from there.
What's left?
What's left? Thanks, Ryan Getzlaff. Well, the Predators are moving just a little bit up the California coast tonight. They take on the Los Angeles Kings at Staples Center. Second game of back-to-back. LA Kings are kind of in an interesting spot because this was a team that was kind of still supposed to be in a rebuild. Instead, they find themselves pretty firmly in a playoff spot at the moment, second in the Pacific Division. But it's weird because you watch them and they're not playing particularly well. Like, they're not blowing anybody away. But they are a dangerous team and somebody the Preds are going to have to really keep an eye out for.
They're 5-4-1 in their last 10, but some of these games have come in overtime and shootouts. They've been pretty close. They are coming off a 5-1 loss against the Vegas Golden Knights. So they're looking to kind of bounce back from that. I think it's interesting coincidence that this is the Victor Arvidsson. We're going to get to see him after Forsberg just broke his record. Filip Forsberg did say in the post game that he keeps in touch with Arvidsson. They're still very good friends. And I'm sure there will be some talk about how Forsberg broke Arvy's record. So we'll get to see him again. But this is a team, I think, in some ways very comparable to Nashville, where expectations were low or middle at best, and they've just been able to piece together some momentum and some good things. So this is going to be a good test for Nashville, I think, to see if they can get 2 more points. Back-to-back games on the West Coast are never easy, so it's definitely going to be a dig deep kind of night. Do you think we're going to see Rittich in net tonight?
I think we're pretty obviously going to see Rittich in net tonight. Although to be fair, we did give Josi Saros 1 minute rest last night.
What? Like, how greedy can he be?
So maybe he's ready to go back in there. Maybe playing 59 minutes instead of 60 is what saved him. No, I think you're going to see Rittich in this situation, at least going by what John Hynes says. I think the Predators have some momentum right now, and I think he's comfortable enough in the players in front of the goaltender, how well they're playing, that you can take a chance and be like, you know what, I know Rittich hasn't had the best season, but we just need you to come out here and, play a solid game for us, and we can still pick up a win. I don't think it's going to be like a situation like we've had the last couple of years where Josi Saros winds up playing pretty much every game down the stretch. I think if we're going off of, a standard day off game schedule, you'll probably see Saros in most of those. But it's not like last year where I think you're going to see him forced into all these back-to-backs. I think that's something that I expect down the stretch. I expect Rittich to come and do well. Los Angeles isn't a big scoring team either. Anze Kopitar is, of course, on fire, but everybody else is kind of in the 30 to 20 point range after him. They do have a lot of depth. Like, there's definitely a lot of guys who can score, but they're not lighting the world on fire either. So that's something that I think, John Hynes is going to be look at and said, okay, this is another team that we should be able to put some style points on. Even though the Kings are in the playoffs right now, you do expect the Predators to win this one, right? I mean, the way they're playing right now, I would say, yeah, they're a better team than the Kings.
I think the key for this game, the key for this win is to come out early and find their game right away, because that will take some of the pressure off of Rittich if Nashville can get to the forecheck, if they can start playing physical, if they can get to that hockey that they played in the third period right away. That's going to take a ton of the heat off of Rittich. And I think you're right. I think that there is confidence in the way this defense is playing in front of the net. UC Saros really did have to do a little bit more work than they probably would have liked in the first period. If they can come out and play right away to their style of hockey in the first period, I do feel like this is a win for the Nashville Predators. This is something that they should be able to do.
Yeah, and the Kings in goal also have kind of been a mixed bag this year. Not sure if we're going to see Cal Peterson or Jonathan Quick yet, but both of them have been good in spurts, but also sort of mediocre to bad in spurts. Both of them have save percentages under 9-10, so right around league average. Yeah, I mean, this is a game in which I think if the Predators do jump out early and Filip Forsberg and Matt Duchene continue their pace, yeah, this is a game where the Predators, I think, are going to have a chance to score a lot of goals like we saw the other night. It's just going to be a matter of, can they keep that mental focus going from game to game?
Yes.
You had a big win over Anaheim last night. You have all this stuff about history and, Josi's on a record-setting pace, and you're talking awards. Can you kind of build off of that momentum that you had last night and go on? And the other thing to keep out for is that the Predators did play last night. So how long is your energy going to last during the game?
Right.
You might have more fatigue in that third period than you would in a normal game. So that's the importance of a hot start, because the Kings have had the Kings have had 3 days rest now. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be
very different.
Yeah, so they're going to be able to last a little bit longer in that game. So that's why the hot start for Nashville is important. And then, at the end of the game, even though you're fatigued, if you can do enough just to kind of survive, that's going to be key.
Yes, I would agree with that. I think this is something that this is a very doable game. If the Predators can come home from this 3-game West Coast swing with 6 points, that would be huge. I am with you, though. One of the things that Nashville has to consistently be mindful of, and John Hynes preaches, don't get too high, don't get too low. And I think they get tripped up when they get too high. And so going into this game, staying, focused on what they need to do, getting right away to their style of play is going to be key, and not to let, there's potential for the emotion of this record-setting pace that they're on, with Forsberg, Duchene. I think that there is the potential for them to sort of get mentally off track. Hopefully that won't happen. And like you said, it's going to be a need for a hot start right away to see this one to the end.
Yeah, well, it is a 10:30 Eastern start, 9:30 Central start. So get ready to stay up and get that late night cup of coffee going again.
That's right.
Going to be another late one. Of course, we'll break it down tomorrow. Until then, Anne, where can the fine people find your work online?
You can find my work at ontheforecheck.com, and you can find me on Twitter at AnnK_Mama on Ice.
I'm Nick Morgan. You can follow me on Twitter at _NSMorgan. Read my work at ontheforecheck.com. Also, be sure to follow the podcast on Twitter at LO_Predators. If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like us, leave a comment, and subscribe. That helps us get this video out to more Preds fans like yourself. That's going to do it for us today on the Locked On Predators podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We'll be back here tomorrow with Preds Kings recap and much more juicy Preds talk.